Joining us from New York is Marcus Miller. And okay, I'll bite. Math and music and conquering How did you put all of that together? I mean, you have to be a mathematician to come up with that formula anyway.
Right. So I'll start with me. Math and music were just things that I always loved to do in my life. I started playing the saxophone when I was 9 years old, and I started playing semi-professionally when I was 13. But I ended up going to Harvard for mathematics because all my music mentors told me to go learn something different about the world. And so throughout my life, I've kind of had these two passions, and I've been looking for ways to put them together. And there's, general research about how, sound is governed by equations of physics, and how there are certain things in music theory that have nice representations in mathematical formula. But that wasn't what interested me. What interested me was kind of the capacity for curiosity and imagination that both math and music fostered. And then thinking about the state of the world, there was something about the process of doing math and music that I felt like informed one's character. In particular, both math and music invite community. They give an opportunity for the so-called hero's journey, the kind of ability to conquer oneself and arrive at a stage of mastery. And they both give access to a sense of transcendent beauty. And I think that if we could have more transcendent beauty, more self-control, and more community in the world would be better off.
I don't want you to go too far from this Harvard thing, because I want to go back to you're playing the saxophone. Everybody in your school, I'm sure, knows you as the guy that really is good on the sax. He's been playing since he was 13. But then you get a scholarship, I take it to Harvard, and people say, oh, no, you need to study math. So you must have been like genius on several levels.
Genius is a big word. I don't know if I'm big enough for that. But I can say this: I was also very good at school. Academics was a strong suit, and frankly, my father had a lot to do with that. There were just lots of books in the house, and he was an accountant by training, so he would have me, play around with numbers, and that was just part of the dialogue. So being good at school, that was kind of why my music mentors encouraged me. He said, music school is very expensive. Being a jazz musician, it's hard to get out of that debt. You might want to go somewhere else and learn that. So, my first year at Harvard, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wasn't going to study music there. And around my sophomore year, I started to fall in love with mathematics and continued on that course.
So this platform that you've launched, how does it work?
Right. So right now, I find that I'm just a very curious person. I love literature. I love history. I love mathematics. I love music. I love physics. And the relationship I've had with the National Museum of Mathematics for the past 2 years is I've given presentations about the relationship of between math and music, but from some unusual angles. And we bring in people in the math and music community who were luminaries who hadn't necessarily thought about the other subject, and we just created conversations. So we had one about. Yep.
Give me a for instance.
Oh, sure. So we had one about symmetry, and that featured a physicist named Stefan Alexander, who's also a saxophonist. He has a book called The Jazz of Physics. We talked about rhythm, where we brought in a Fields medalist, which is like the Nobel Prize of mathematics, Manjul Bhargava from Princeton, who's also a tabla player, and then we brought in the professor of Latin music, the then professor of Latin music at Manhattan School of Music, and he taught us about rhythm from Afro-Latin rhythms, and then we brought in one of the drummers from Hamilton, and I guess the drummer from Ain't Too Proud before COVID happened and Broadway got shut down, and he talked about his kind of way of playing the drums coming up in Miami from kind of a gospel tradition and a jazz tradition, and his system that was very mathematical. So we're able to get all of these different people together to talk about rhythm and to jam and math behind it, right? So those are kind of two examples.
How does the drummer from Hamilton talk to people about how drums make a difference in his life mathematically?
Right. So that gets we have to get a little bit detailed. So he has a system of how to practice drums. Drums is a very interesting instrument because you can't always practice it at all times. It's very loud. So you're a drummer, so you understand, right? No. If you live in an apartment, people are going to complain. So he developed a system, a rhythmic solfege, where you say certain syllables, and those certain syllables you can say aloud or you can say in your head, and those comprise all of the rhythm. That's how you formulate rhythm ideas. Well, it turns out that the solfege that he just invented for himself is very much related to the Indian system of rhythmic solfege, which is how the mathematician kind of came in. And there's just a lot of mathematics in terms of what the patterns look like. When you write down that solfege, stop thinking about it in strokes and think about it a little bit more abstractly. What patterns kind of emerge? What patterns are possible? And how do those kind of influence the emotion? And how do they show up in different cultures in music when you're trying to, you know, create a scene or create some emotional effect?
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about how you manage to translate what you're talking about to an audience, a younger audience, that the minute they hear math, their eyes just glaze over. So
Right.
stay with us.